Welcome to the Unmuted Podcast, y'all. We are back. It's been a while, but we're trying to be more consistent here. So how are you, bro? What's going on?
I'm good, bro.
It's been a busy few weeks.
Yeah.
Or busy couple months, I guess, into the year.
It's only February. It's already been crazy, but it's all good, you know.
So, yeah, I am tired. Bro, I got 7 hours of sleep, and I'm still tired, which is stupid. Because everybody tells me you usually get more sleep, so I got more sleep, but now I'm more exhausted, so makes no sense. But I'm chilling, bro. Obviously, Pastor Ron's not here, but this show still goes on the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really want to talk about ministry, why ministries fail, how to build a sustaining ministry, because I think we both been a part of, ministries that have failed, but also ministries that and we are also leading sustaining ministries right now, and ministries that are actively growing week by week. So I would love to hear the story of how you became the leader of the men's ministry, because that is your main squeeze, right?
Yeah.
So how did you come to all that?
So it's interesting because actually where birthed that ministry was Upward. I was in ministry with Upward, and I found that a lot of the kids that we were dealing with, their dads wasn't in their life, things like that, so they would have anger issues and just different stuff that was affecting them because there wasn't men around. And so I kind of had got that concept when God had spoke to me about, he literally told me, he said, you can see the problem in the boys, but do you see the problem in the men? And he said men need places to go to and vent to, and they need people to hold them accountable, and they need other men to be on their side. So that's what birthed that. That's what birthed the men's ministry, Wolfpack, all that type of stuff. And it's like you said, it's not my vision. It was my vision, but it wasn't my vision. It came from God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, I have a heart for that, but exactly. He gave me the vision, and I just followed through with the vision that He already had for me. With that. So. And
that's the way I view it. We are temporary stewards, right? Mm-hmm. Time's going to pass on, and we're not going to be here forever. You're not always going to be leading the men. Yep. I'm not always going to be leading students or young adults. And there's going to come a time where either we're going to have to go, or we might do something else in the church, right? Mm-hmm. And then someone else is going to take our spots. But it's up to us to prep that for the next person. Yep. Which it's pretty much a leadership thing of you always should have someone that you're thinking of that could take your spot. And then also the thing of even though you're prepping for the future to an extent, and then you're not obviously putting all your energy on it, but while you're prepping for the future, also you're creating an environment that is safe, but also a place for people to be challenged and grow. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's the same for me with youth group. I got found on Facebook doing content, and then I ended up coming in, and then ever since then, I've been here doing the youth group, and then became the worship pastor on my honeymoon, which was a crazy way to call me. But anyways, so that's kind of how it's been ever since. We just been running. Same with you. And now I do want to talk about why ministries fail, because I do think that there's a lot of places and churches, and not saying that we have all of the right answers, because we definitely don't. and I do think that there's a level that we have yet to unlock in the ministry world that some of my friends have, where I think that we are getting people, but it's not the crazy abundance of we're getting 100 new people a week or anything that. Yeah. I don't really think a lot of churches are like that right now anyways. But
yeah, we kind of got a steady growth going on.
Exactly. It's a consistent,
it's not like an explosion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of,
and I've had that happen though in ministry. Like I said, literally, honestly, the first ministry that I did that was big time was Upward, and we started off with 50 kids. Yeah. Next year I had 150 kids.
Dang.
So I've seen it go like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you can have both. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Same thing here. When I first started youth group, right? That's kind of how it was. We started with 10 kids. A month later, bro, we're pulling 80 students a night. Yeah. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. This is getting out of hand. And then we had to really slow down. But I do think that a lot of ministries fail for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. But you and I can both agree, and we kind of had a similar meeting when we were talking to Pastor Ron, and I feel like we've had a lot of conversation about this, that it is a top-down thing. Oh, right? Yeah. That leadership is what makes a ministry healthy and well, and it starts with whoever is the lead at the top. Yeah. So I do think that one of the biggest things that makes a ministry fail is miscommunication.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times we get a vision from God, and I do believe that there are some things to, the vision that you can't tell everybody, right? Like there are some plans I have for youth group that maybe only you and Pastor Ron know, but I haven't told the world, or not the world, but I haven't told
you haven't told everybody. Yeah.
I haven't told my youth group leaders what some of that vision is for the future, because I don't think they're ready to hear that, and you probably have that too, right? With your men's group, there's some visions that you have for the men's group, or there are some people that you want to put in place, but you haven't even gotten to talking to them about it yet, because you're trying to wait for the right timing, right?
And I think even with me and you, we've talked about this too recently. Like, we had to kind of look at our structure. Like, where I started at with the Wolfpack to how it's structured now is totally different.
Yeah.
Like, I started off where it was just me, like, being the leader. I mean, recruiting, doing whatever I needed to do, like trying to make sure that men was coming into the group and all that. But now I have a structure where I'm not the only leader, which is like what you were talking about earlier. Like, I literally took that structure and we made it to where, like, I wasn't the only leader. Of course, I have a little bit more influence because I started it, but I'm not the only one making the decision now.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
What I mean?
So how important is communication when it comes to leading a ministry, and with the people that are leading, like, under you? How important is communication there?
It's got to be, like, number one, because you need people to buy into the vision. You need people that's close enough to you to understand what you're doing on a level that's almost similar to how you're doing it. Because the vision, like, you can have all these plans, but you always have to use other people to get you to where you need to go. So if they can't buy into that vision, or they can't buy into what you're doing, they're always going to be miscommunicated with, and then you're never going to be able to get them to do what you want them to do, so that the vision can come true the way that it's supposed to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, and we've done that with Ron. Like, Ron has a vision, but me and you both kind of know what his vision is, and we both agree that his vision is mostly right. You know what I mean? So we can get on board with the vision. If we weren't on board with the vision, there'd be more friction there.
Yeah.
Not saying that we don't have any friction, but there would be much more friction.
It will be toxic.
Yeah.
Like, so I think the friction that we have with Pastor Ron is more so, okay, let's put this into reality and action. And I think for us that's been the hardest thing. Is like, okay, how do we take this big idea and put it into action, or put it into real life? You know what I mean? But that's like us helping the vision come to life, not necessarily us fighting against the vision. You know what I'm saying? But
your people got to understand that first. That's the thing,
and that's where communication comes into play, right? And I agree with everything you said, because I also think that with communicating, each leader has a different way of how you communicate with them. Different style. So like with my wife, I can tell her 90% of what the vision is, because she's my wife. She knows me. She knows the way I take. There's an understanding. But with some of the other leaders, I have to tell them enough to position them, or to put them in the best position to lead in according to the vision. Yeah. And the more that they grow, the more I'll share. Yeah. The more that they grow, the more responsibility that they'll have. Because I mean, look, right, there are some leaders where you recruit and you don't really know what they have yet. Yeah. Right. Like you don't really know what they're capable of doing. So you'll be like, all right, I'll give you this. Like
you gotta test them a little bit to see where they're at. Yeah.
Because I know that your entry level is usually like, hey, I want you to teach a week on the Bible study. Yep. Right. And then my guess, this is from knowing you. We're like you know me pretty well. You're one of my closest friends in the world at this point. So I pretty much know how you operate. Same, we know how I operate. But like I know that like for you it's like, yo, I'll like you can teach a week here, and then if they start to get little good, then that's when they might teach at the men's event, or you will start discipling them in private for maybe deaconship, or maybe or even for any type of leadership, right? Like you see these things, and then you start to groom that gift and really start pouring into them, and giving them all of that time, but you do it in a gradual phase, right? Like I know for you, it takes time for you to see it. And that's what I've adopted too, is like, I don't like, I used to give too much too fast. And lately it's been like, okay, like I know you work a 9 to 5. I know you got kids. I know you got a lot going on. Let's just give you this and see what it kind of goes into.
Because you got, like you said, you got to grow people too. Like we've been doing this. We've been doing this longer than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we've been, so like to us, like where we are now, like, and I know I say that a lot, but what I mean is, it's like, as long as we've been in leadership now, like things just come easy to us naturally. But people that's just getting into leadership, they're just now learning. So like they'll take that one step and you be like, well, okay, they took a step, they did really good. Let me put more on them. But when you put more on them too fast, then they can't, really handle it. So you got to teach them, you got to grow them. I mean, it's like having a new baby. Like the baby's not going to walk on the first day.
Yeah.
It takes time for that baby to hold up their head. It takes time for that baby to hold a bottle. It takes time for that baby to do anything. But eventually they're gonna get there. You know what I mean? So it's the same. You know what I mean? So
yeah, like there's just a quote I love. It said they said don't master the word, but let the word master you. Mm-hmm. Saying that like the word of God should be your seatbelt. And when I think of leadership, it's like the word of God has to be the seatbelt for leadership. And when I look at the word, when I look at the leadership from think about all this, right? Like Moses was the communication barrier between God and his people.
Yep.
And we saw that Moses would go up to the mountain often to talk to God. And I actually just watched this Bible Project video talking about
I like Bible Project.
You gotta watch the video, but they were basically talking about how important mountains are in the Bible, and how a lot of times when God speaks, people are on or are at high points, and mountains. Talking about like Abraham and stuff like that. It's a really good video, but I'm not trying to dig into a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But like Moses was that benefactor of like, hey, God has given me this, and I'm going to tell you. And even with Jesus, I would argue, and I think a lot of people would agree, that Jesus shielded the disciples from some things, and from some debates, and from some just certain, like, yes, they were there, but Jesus did most of the talking. And you see that when the New Testament church starts and Peter gives that first sermon, right, and which really kicks off this this new movement, right? Even when he showed himself, he only took 3 people with him.
Exactly. And he did that because they were the only ones that were really ready. Like, you got to know your people, you got to know the people that you're leading, and you got to know what they can handle and what they can't.
Exactly.
Because not everybody can handle everything. You know what I mean? Some people get overwhelmed with the fact that they've been in church for too long. Like, they've been here for 2 hours, they ready to go home. They can't even fathom going any longer. Yeah. But you got to know that about people. You know what I mean? So,
and that's why I love the model of Jesus, because Jesus shielded them. But when it was time for them to take that place, and not saying that they took the place of God. Don't try to cancel me here, because you know how people be. Yeah. Oh, still, this man said Peter is God. Didn't say that. Don't even try that on me.
Don't try that.
Right? We are not. We already cooked somebody in the Israel comments about a month ago. Don't be the next person. Like they even tried it, bro. They tried it. But yeah, but when it came time for them to be the people, to be like the image bearers, and to answer the questions, they were ready to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so communication is a big thing that needs to happen. And also when it comes to communication, you also have to take inventory of the things you say. So like, good communication doesn't mean you're always talking.
Yeah, 100%.
And a lot of times leaders think that good communication means that you yap 24/7.
Yeah.
And something that I've learned, bro, is that you communicate when you can. And communicating when you can doesn't always mean communicating every second of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, for us, with obviously like Pastor Ron or whatever, it's different because there's so much that we are involved in, and we're
so much
involved in the intricacies and the business side and all that stuff. So it's different. But I'm more talking about as in a ministry.
Yeah.
There has to be a level of space in the communication where your leaders are comfortable enough to know, okay, my leader has given me all of the tools that I need, and he's communicated that, but he's also not hounding me every day, for something.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think you're spot on, and I think communication can also, like you said, it ain't necessarily gotta be email. It don't gotta be a face-to-face conversation. It don't gotta be none of that. Some of it can be just action.
Mm-hmm.
You know
exactly.
what I mean? If I'm taking a step and I'm showing you that I'm taking a step, like, hopefully you follow behind me in taking a step. Like, if I walk forward and I'm trying to plow to the next step, like, you should be able to see that and plow with me. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's not always like me telling you what to do or me, you know what I mean? But my communication should be clear all the way across the board, whether it's talking to you, emailing you, or like just showing you, like either way. You know what I mean? So
Now I want to talk about the next thing, which I think you're gonna laugh at. Expectations.
you know my favorite quote, right?
Expectations. What is it?
Expectation versus reality.
So this is a perfect topic that we're going to talk about. Is how a lot of people walk into ministry thinking that their ministry will blow up in a matter of 3 weeks.
Yep.
Or they think the first week they're going to pull 60 people, but in reality you might pull 6.
Yep.
And you know, in ministry, like, and this for a lot of younger people my age, they're so number governed, you know, and when they don't get the numbers that they want, it kills something inside of them, because all we see on the internet is, you know, big church and big ministries growing. So I really want you to speak to that, about how people do kind of have false realities, and how, you know, like when it comes to expectations, like, we should have more of a heart of patience and trust in God, but a lot of times in our ministries, we don't really trust in God to grow.
Yeah, and that's because, like you said, we live in a microwave society, so everything looks glamorous on Facebook, Instagram, all the other things, because you got people that are literally making videos and they got, you know, 20,000 followers from one video. So now you think that you can have the same success by doing something, like not necessarily the video, but like thinking that everything's microwave like that, which it ain't. It's rarely that. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have people that do those things, but for the most part, it's all about being steady. It's all about accepting what is growing, you know, at the time. Or like when I started off with the Wolfpack, I literally had 5 dudes in the Wolfpack, and it took a minute before we got to like 10. And then we got to 15, then we got to 20. You know, now we got 25, 30 or something like that. I think we had 30 technically. We technically got 30 Wolfpack members. But that took a minute. Like, to get 30 men in one group, you can't get 30 men anywhere, basically. I mean, you can.
Unless it's hooping.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But even that, it's like, yeah, I mean, that's only happens every once in a while, because people got other stuff they got going on. But you got to be willing to be patient with it and understand that the plan, just follow the plan. So
a quote that's been really running in my mind lately is, sometimes to solve the problem, you don't have, sometimes solving the problem means not always addressing and thinking about the problem. And that's so countercultural and so counter leadership.
That's actually a good
But
quote.
something that I've seen, Leroy, is that whenever things grow, it's whenever I'm not focusing on it. And I do think it is the humbling work of the Lord showing me, yo, like, just a reminder, like, yo, you're not the one that's growing this. I'm just using you to really like help my name go forward, which is great. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm the reason why this is growing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, bro, the things that we focus on always fail. And it's like, whenever we're not paying attention to something, that's when the weirdest times of, you know, growth happens. I mean, think about our think about our Wednesday night small group. That's probably our biggest small group that we have,
definitely.
right? Where they're probably pulling like 25 people.
Yeah,
which
every almost every Wednesday.
And it's excuse me.
Yeah, you're good. Whew, get that out there.
We're pulling about. They're pulling. Oh my gosh.
See, he live. It's real out here, right? Don't get that clear out.
That's gonna get cut. Best believe. But
nah, hopefully
they're pulling about 25 to 30 people every week, and I bet you $1,000. No, let me not say that.
No, don't bet nobody.
I bet that if we brought Damien in here and said, "Hey, what strategy did you use to grow it?" He would say, "I don't have a strategy."
Yeah.
There's no social media strategy. There's no digital footprint. There's no anything. It's just, yo, I'm just teaching the word of God, and God is just making.
I could tell you what the strategy is.
What is it?
The strategy is listen to God. That's what it is. Yeah. Literally, I'm telling you, the way I grew Wolfpack was literally, he gave me the rules. You know the rules. You know the 4 rules. He gave me the rules, and that was it. He said, do the rules, follow them, teach the word. That's all you got to do. And all I did was do what he said. And when it was hard, like I said, when I started off and I was only at 5 dudes and then it wasn't really growing like I wanted it to grow or I thought it was supposed to grow, all I did was take a step back and say, look, Lord, if you want this to grow, like, you got to show up. Not me. I can't do nothing about it. Like, I mean, I'm a rock out until the wheels fall off, but I would have stayed with just 4 people if that's what he wanted. But
yeah.
I gave it to him like, hey, you got to do it. You know what I mean? Because it's not about me. I can wish for as many people as I want to come, but he got to make that move, not me. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. And it's like we have to do our part in order for God to do his part.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you start a ministry or you're taking over one, sometimes we overdo our part too much. You know, like sometimes we think overdoing our part takes all this work. And look, it does take work.
It does. You got to work, but yeah.
It's hard work. I mean, the amount of studying that we have to do weekly, and it's like, it's grueling work. But I would say that, like, I don't worry as much, bro, about numbers anymore, because lately it's just like God's just bringing them to me. You know what I mean? Like, like a parent sent me an email, and I never get emails about parents, you know, or I never get emails from parents asking about the youth group, you know, but it's God kind of trying to move and kind of work, you know, God's working it. He's working out for me. You know, he's working out for us. He's working out for our church. And so to the young ministry person where you just took something, right? Like, you just took a ministry and you're excited. Prepare for the worst. And when I say that, prepare to grow slow.
Yeah.
Even if you grow fast, grow slow. And to be honest, I thank God, bro, that God didn't give me everything I wanted off the rip. Because I think I would have screwed the pooch even worse.
Absolutely. I don't care what type of man you are. Or I'm not even gonna say man. Let me. I don't care what type of person you are. We all got a little pride. Every single one of us. I mean, it's nature. It's just, you know. So like, even for me, I'm a pretty humble dude, and I know that. But at the same time, I can also be prideful too. So if God was to give me, like, you know, 500 people, I'd probably be like, oh, I did. You know what I mean? I probably, you know what I mean? Not saying I wouldn't know that God helped me or God did it. You know what I mean? But like, I would still have a little bit of pride in myself. You know what I mean?
I can tell you now, Roy, if I had 500 students, I started now at, how was I, 20? Oh,
yeah. You don't realize.
Because I became a pastor young, bro. I became a pastor like 20, 21, bro. I was young. If I got that at 21, bro, dude, I would have started a consulting business. I would have had somebody running in here while I'm consulting. I would have got in trouble. Like, I mean, like, I would have went and did the most, right? Because that's what happens, bro. When you, like, there are like what is that quote? That, you know, sometimes God will give you things that your character can't sustain. Yeah, you know. Yeah. And the reality is that a lot of our characters wouldn't be able to sustain even what we have right now. You know,
that's probably true. Yeah,
because like for me, like I have the most active leaders I've ever had in my youth ministry, like, ever. Yeah, this is the most active, and I think that, like, a 21-year-old me would not have known how to use that. Yeah, and not use them in a mean way, but like, I would have known how to.
You wouldn't have known how to lead them in the way that they need to be led. Yeah,
because I'm so just self-centered and still trying to figure out my life. You know, I just got engaged at that time. You know, I was focused on, you know, trying to get the wedding and all that. And I'm pretty sure you were going through probably some wild stuff too, 100%.
Right?
Like,
when you first started. Listen, I wouldn't have been able to handle, like, where I'm at now with the guys that I have, and just like I talked about, like, even changing my leadership style from, you know, me running stuff to, you know, all of us, like, there's 6 of us that we call it. So in our thing, we have a core, and the core is the ones that make the day-to-day decisions for the pack, basically. Yeah. And like, I wouldn't have been able to lead them guys when I first started. You know what I'm saying? Like, now where I'm at, my maturity spiritually, you know, with God and all that, and just in general, you know, now I can handle it on a different level. Like, it's just different. Like, you know, like you said, I wouldn't have been ready for it at the time. Yeah. But yeah.
So I think our finishing, at least for that subject of expectations and reality, is that you have to have a healthy expectation that God can do the craziest thing. It could just pop off. Yep. And you always want to have that in the back of your mind, but also have the reality of the way that I teach, the way that I preach, the way that I lead doesn't change based on the number. And I would say this: your teaching and preaching should change based on the people that you're leading, not the numbers of people that you're leading. So, like, most of my kids right now are, like, I have a lot of 6th to 8th graders, and 90% of your kids are that, right? Yeah, like, you have 2 kids in our group where one's Joey's 14.
She's in 7th grade.
He's in 7th grade, and then Makina's in 6th grade. Yep. So you have a 12. So I have a 12 and 13-year-old. So right now, I'm not talking about sex that much. Yeah. You know, because I have young kids, and, like, they're not there yet. Yeah. You know, and so what I do is I talk about sex more so in my high school small groups. Yep. Because they need to have those conversations. Like, yo, this is what the Bible says, blah, blah, sexuality, all that stuff. So, like, a lot of times we have to learn how to, like, I think that a lot of times we are trying to change based on numbers, not based on the temperatures of our people.
Yep.
And I think God is more disappointed when we care about our numbers, but we're not actually trying to shepherd the people that we're leading.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And yeah, I think we said this earlier, dude, too. Like, like you got to know your audience, you know, and that's whatever field you're in. You know what I mean? So, like, for me, I know I specifically deal with men, and I know that the men that I deal with, they all have different things going on in their life. They all on different stages. You know what I mean? So, like you said, with the leadership part of that, like, my introvert person, they're more organized than some of my extrovert person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my extrovert person is more willing to go and step out and talk to somebody else to bring another brother in. So knowing them, using them in the way that is going to comfort them and help them to where it makes your organization stronger, or whatever you got going on, whatever whatever ministry you are in. That's how you lead well. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly. And then lastly, I want to talk about the last thing of what makes a sustainable ministry is consistency. This is the biggest thing that you and I champion.
Yeah,
I took this from you.
Yeah,
because I was consistent, but I wasn't going every week.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it the one day I said.
Yeah, the one day you're like, bro, just do every week.
Yep.
And I ended up switching every week, and it transformed. I mean, our youth grew like 30 kids in a matter of like 4 months.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that consistency is probably the biggest hurdle that a lot of people have to get over, and it also is the biggest blessing. Number one, because a lot of people value their time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to go every week on a ministry because they value their time. And the reality is that in ministry, it is a sacrifice of time that you have to take.
Yep.
And I think consistency is probably the most practical step when it comes to having a ministry that is sustainable. And if you aren't able to sustain a weekly ministry, depending on what ministry you're leading, you might want to pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah. My mentor, he told me this early on when I first started taking over, I hit the class and all that stuff, and it's so valuable, man. I promise you, I use it all the time. He said, "Minister to who's there, never worry about who's not." And that, I use that in almost every aspect that I'm in, as far as like my home life, my family life, my ministry life, because it's so practical. Because a lot of times people won't show up, or things won't go the way you want, but you still got to show up. You still got to do what you're supposed to do. You still got to be there, all that. So if you're consistently doing that every week, every day, if you're showing up every day, people know you're going to show up every day. People know you're going to show up every week. You know what I mean? And then whether they come in, every week or not, they know the next week you're going to be there. You know what I mean? So, like, I got guys that can't come every week because they got their kids and they do other stuff. So, I know what week they're coming. Like, the one week they can't come. And they know. They tell me from the beginning they can't come that week. But then the next week, I know they're going to be there. You know what I mean? Unless something, happened. But most of the time, you know that they're going to be there, or they'll let you know. You know what I mean? So, being consistent lets them know that you're consistent. It lets them know that you're reliable as a leader.
Yeah,
because the best thing you can be is a reliable person as a leader.
Exactly.
And
like, given the fact that a lot of people that come in here, they're scarred up, and a lot of people have given up on them, and you don't want to make it seem like you're giving up on them. And a lot of times when you're not consistent, it can come off as such, or even like, I've seen that, like, some students tell me, like, yo, like, this is a safe haven for me, and so having this every week, like, it's what's keeping them alive, bro.
Yeah.
And so I think from that standpoint as well, but as a leader from a practical standpoint, and this is in anything, in discipline, when it comes to reading your Bible, eating healthy, working out, when it comes to almost anything, even having a healthy marriage, you have to have a level of consistency.
Yep.
Because if you, and I always say this, if you aren't consistent in your personal relationship with God, it's going to be very hard for you to be consistent in a lot of other places.
Yep.
And a lot of people think that consistency means I'm going to just do this every single day. That's not necessarily what consistency means. Consistency really means that you're doing it every day at the same level.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to be consistent, but they don't do things at the same level every single week. And like, my goal is like, yo, when I do this, I want to make sure I'm putting out the best quality every single week, and even trying to be better. Every single week.
You trying to be at even higher level than you were. You know what I mean? So I agree with you 100%. And I think that's some of the best. that's some of the best ways to lead a ministry and make it successful. Is, you got to be consistent. You got to communicate with your people. And just, you got to know the vision. You got to tell your leaders about the vision. Make sure that they understand it, and then you go forth from there and know who you're dealing with.
And have a healthy and have a healthy expectation, and maybe healthy expectations should have been the first one. Because I do think that like a lot of people take. Oh, this is a good one.
Come on.
A lot of people take their aspirations and make that a vision, and an aspiration is not a vision.
Yep.
Like what you aspire a group to be is 99% of the time not the vision that God has for you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so many people will say, "Oh, like for example, oh, I aspire to be a pastor," but did God call you to be that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I aspire to lead my own group. I aspire to sing on stage. I aspire to lead a men's group. But okay, cool. But did God equip you for that?
Yep.
And a lot of times, so many people want to do things that they aspire to do, not necessarily the things that God has equipped you to do. And my friend David, he did this to me. I still wrestle with this thought, but he said, in order for us to serve in something for God, you have to want to do it. And I wrestle with that because I never wanted to be a pastor. You know? But I do. But
I actually would say.
Yeah. But look,
let me change it a little bit for you.
Go ahead.
I actually think to do something for God, you gotta be willing to do it. It doesn't mean you gotta want to do exactly what you know what I mean. Like you said, for me, same thing. I was not expecting to be man, everybody, people tell you all the time, and for you too, we did not expect to be pastors.
No, not at all.
But we were willing to be obedient to whatever God had for us.
Yeah.
So, like, you're just like you said, a vessel. And if you accept the fact that God might have something different for your life, because being a good leader is also about being able to adjust and change too. Like things that I did early on in my leadership, God adjusted and changed because that wasn't the way He wanted me to do it, or you know what I mean. I could have done it on a better level, like you said. Because me personally, I want to do everything I can at the highest level. My dad taught me. He taught us all this. He told us, when we were younger. He said, anything you do it at 110%. If you can't do it at 110%, don't do it.
Yeah.
So everything that I look at, I want to be at that level. I want to do it at 110%. I ain't trying to slack on nothing if I can avoid it. Now I ain't perfect. I suck sometimes, but
yeah, we all do.
If I'm doing it, I want to push for that 110%. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And kind of where I've come to with that conclusion is like when you buy into God's vision, you want to do it.
Yep.
And
now I love being a pastor.
And that's where exactly. And that's where I think he's at. I think he kind of skipped the beginning part. Because it's like you have to buy into God's vision to want to do it, and obviously there's going to be things that you don't want to do. Like I don't want to go out and shovel when it snows. You're being real.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some stuff in here that you want to do. All the maintenance stuff we got to do. You don't want to always do it.
Yeah.
But we know the greater call is to serve the capital C church, right? Not necessarily. Well, yes, the building and the people, but we are called to serve the Lord. So man, this is a really good talk. And if you are in ministry, please write these things down. Like these are some things.
Ask us questions and we can.
Because we've been through a lot, man. Yeah. Like we have been through a lot, and like like I've been doing this since I was like probably like you say since I was 18. You've been doing this for what? How long now?
I don't know.
10 years?
No, it's been longer than that.
Longer than that.
Yeah.
So
it's been like 15, 20 years. Now. I think it's been 20 years now, almost.
Yeah, and thing is like you'll get scars from this.
It's been 17 years because Natalia will be 17, and 17 years.
And we can both say we got scars. We still have some unhealed trauma that we're still trying to work through every day. But
they say it all the time. Ain't no hurt like church hurt.
Exactly.
But listen, but you can have healing in that.
It's sometimes worse. It's sometimes worse than a relationship heartbreak.
That's facts right there.
You know what I'm saying? It feel like a relationship heartbreak. But But
let's not go too deep.
Yeah, right. But not yet.
That's another topic.
That's another episode. But these are some really good gems that were being dropped, and I hope that you guys can take some of these things and like really put them into action. So hope you guys have a great day and peace out.
Peace out.